Well, welcome to a new Harry's Garage video, and yes, today's car is the Porsche Cayenne, but not your regular Cayenne. This is the Turbo GT, and it's the coupe form of Cayenne as well. And when I had that Range Rover Sport in, and I mentioned Porsche Cayenne, I realised I had never reviewed one on this channel. So I rang Porsche, and they sent this across. And this is the very top of Cayenne-ness. It is the fastest Cayenne of all. It has lapped the Nurburgring in 7 minutes 38.9 seconds, 186 miles an hour I think it is, 640 horsepower from its breathed on V8. I feel it's like the last of a breed, these cars, as we go into the electric era. But I wanted to get it in because the Ferrari Purosangue is nearly upon us. The embargo lifts on the 8th of March when I will reveal all about that car. I can't say anything until then. So I was just doing my homework and wanted to drive a Cayenne again. And I've had a week with it, and it's quite an intriguing car. So let's go and have a closer look. Now, the GT letters in its name are important on this car. Initially, I just thought it meant it was coupe. No, that GT letters mean this car is worked on by the team at Weissach, the team who are responsible for cars like the GT3 and GT4. It's not a total GT developed car because they would just start again, etc., but it is a heavily breathed on turbo. And that's why it's got the horsepower. It has numerous changes all round it. We'll go through the chassis changes, etc. But at the front, the way to recognise it, I suppose, it's got bigger inlets here because the engine being breathed on, it feeds off bigger water air intercoolers. That's the coolers for those, and it has extra cooling. It's funny, at the moment it has these automatic vanes at the front, so they're all completely shut up because it's -4 degrees outside, and if that sort of temperature, it doesn't need cooling until it's fully warmed up, so they will open up as the car warms up. The other thing, if you come round, it has 22-inch wheels on it with these bespoke Pirelli Corsa tyres for this model, and the most enormous brakes as well, 440mm carbon disc with 10-pot calipers. I've never seen a caliper quite as big as that. The wheels are also about, I think they're an inch wider. Round here you have the carbon wing mirrors and a carbon roof. Most Cayenne coupes are spec with a glass roof. This one is only the carbon available, saves about 22 kilos. I think it's quite an elegant shape, and when the Cayenne first came out, it looked very like the VW Touareg. As the generations have gone on, it's sort of lost the family resemblance to the VW Touareg, and this coupe version takes it on again to me. It's very pleasing. It's nearly 5 meters long, and it offers pretty reasonable space in there as well. If you come round the back, on the Turbo GT, you get these extra sort of winglets on the rear spoiler here. And also, this is extended, this little boot spoiler here, by 25mm. This is actually a bit of a nuisance, I found, driving this car, because this is an automatic spoiler and it does spoilery things as you go over certain speeds and select Sport Plus and things. And the time it's actually raised and it's fully positioned, you can hardly see. You have a little tiny letterbox to see out the back. Other things around here, well, the Krapovich exhaust in titanium. You can see the blue in here, and it goes halfway back through the car all the time. It saves 18 kilos, I'm told, and sounds really very good. Carbon diffuser here. I can't believe this is doing much because it hasn't really got a flat floor, etc. But practicality-wise, I think it's pretty good. Good space in there. The seats fold down, doesn't go flat floor, but they are in there. I know it's a dark hole. And for £270, you can get a space saver spare, which I always think is well worth doing. As ever, I'm not going to show the interior because it's black on black and you won't see a thing. I just want to have a look at the engine. Now, while I was reading the information on this, I was very surprised to see that this is the 4-litre V8 engine that we see in a number of things. Hot V, so 2 turbos sitting in the middle there. I've tried wrestling this off. I can't get it off. I think it's a screwdriver job. It's something they do in the workshop, because I'd love to show you those 2 turbos sitting there. But It's a heavily breathed on engine. It has different crankshafts, conrods, pistons, all sorts of changes they made to it, timing changes as well, slightly lower compression, and all to give this extra horsepower from this model. Now, also I notice is how far forward the engine has to sit in this. And it's part of the Hot V because you've got the exhaust disappearing off there. So it's very hard to package with the engine right tucked back in the chassis. And the front rear weight distribution on this is 57 front, 43 rear, which is heavily nose biased. But those clever people at Weissach have done all sorts of things to make sure it handles. And that's why I'm going to take it outside now, take it for a drive. Soft closed doors on this car. It's got all these extras on it. I'm going to start it up because it's a bit chilly outside. It's funny the things that are actually extra on here. Some things you shouldn't be. You have your phone in there. It hasn't got wireless charging as standard on here. Soft closed doors here, £497. Heated screen, £336. An ionizer, £203. Adaptive cruise, £1,986. Why? Head-up displays and also an expensive extra, £1,035. Yeah. Inside, I mean, very familiar now, right across the range, obviously Porsche, just the look of the dash with a proper tacho in the middle. Down here you've got Sport and Sports Plus if you make your Cayenne angrier, should you want to. An interesting feature, if I press the middle, it then has sort of goes to a sportier setting for a countdown 20 seconds. So if you're doing overtakes or something like that, you just press the red and then it reverts down to its normal setting. Lots of Alcantara. That's how they sort of differentiated this model, I think, with GT. So, and with it, if you're getting this thing that out of shape that you require a telltale on the steering wheel, where you're more of a hero than I am. But Alcantara across the dash here, Sports, Chrono, etc. Weird bits on here. Cayennes have always had these grab handles when they're really scary. Ah, we're going off road. I bet they never get used. When was the last time we saw a Cayenne off-road? But very black in here. And then at the rear, you've just got the two individual seats. You cannot get a 5-seat option on this, which is a bit odd because it's the do-all family car, isn't it? What else? I think that's all we need to explain at this stage. What I'm going to do now is do my usual thing, head out and go and find some better roads. I'll also let the engine warm up as well. Nice V8 burble, I am going to mention that right from the off, even though we're just in utter cruise mode with no temperature engine. I very definitely know that this engine is a V8. That's always a good thing. I'm still in normal. It doesn't take very long to get 60 miles an hour in this car. They claim 3.4 seconds, but it's actually quicker than that. It's been tested by several magazines, and it's 3.1 to 60, and then on to 7.6 seconds to 100 miles an hour. That makes it about the same as my Project 8. It might be taxed quicker just to 60. Crazy performance for this sort of car. But it is actually reasonably civilised in normal use, and that's my normal road where I measure the sound, and it comes out just over 70, 71, 72 decibels at 60 miles an hour. So they've done a really good job of suppressing the noise from those monster Pirelli Corsa tyres. 315 at the back, 22-inch wheels. But also, surprising that this car actually gets the automatic gearbox. It is uprated beyond what a regular Cayenne Turbo gets, but it's not a dual clutch transmission, which you sort of would expect in such an extreme car as this. But it does mean, doing what I'm doing now, sort of drifting through Burford and things, it's just easy to live with. There's no of those sort of clunky gear changes you sometimes get with dual clutch transmissions when they're trying to do sort of town work. They're great when you're on full attack mode, but they can be a bit strange and just a bit uncouth when you're doing this sort of thing. There's nothing can beat a regular automatic gearbox for that sort of work. Anyway, I want to get the other side of Burford and onto better roads. Inside, just some of the controls are just starting to look a bit dated. The positive is I still have some buttons to do everything, but there's something that feels just a bit cheap when I'm sort of trying to put heated seats on, for example. It doesn't quite have the feel that I expect. It's a blank screen and you press and the whole screen sort of moves, which is a bit strange. Now, I'm going to put this into sport with a little squirt up the hill here, and already it does make major difference. Steering's got that a little bit heavier and it's just more energised on the gear change. It pops down, it pops to fourth, it's not hunting for six quite so regularly, but my goodness, does it get a move on. I mean, yeah, that's all we can do legally. But even then, I can feel the diff tighten up, a bit of torque vectoring going on. It just has grip in these sort of conditions. That's how much torque it can dump onto the road. 850 Newton meters of torque is a huge amount. That is the absolute limit of the ZF gearbox on these things. And you watch the torque curve and it's instantly producing it about 2.5, 2.8 I think it is, and then it flatlines and then drops off 4.5. But that tells you that it's not the engine that's torque limited, it's the gearbox that is torque limited, and that's why it's rated at 850 Newton meters. But no matter, that's proper grunt, and you're also under no illusion that it's turbocharged. There's always that feeling of sort of grunt from the right at the bottom end as that boost builds and it charge off. Red line is 6.8, but actually max power is 6,000 RPM. Overtakes and things, it's very good, especially the way you can just push that button and suddenly have this 20 seconds of craziness and then it reverts back to as we're doing now, sort of cruising. Go down here, it's quite good. If I start braking now, you'll hear it. That's not me changing gear, that's pretty aggressive. And then you take it off down here. Yeah, I mean, Cayenne turbos have always had this sort of mad character, and this one is absolutely no different. Yeah, that's pretty civilised, really. For the type of vehicle it is, it's got 2.2 tonnes on its side, but it does cope with the bumps pretty well, actually. Down here, this is where the GT3 just couldn't cope with the lumps and bumps. I'm not expecting any sort of deviation of this. It will just lock straight, I'm sure. There's a tiny bit of camber. Yeah, it is actually a little bit, but nothing like the proper GT cars. And you are feeling it's got those trick anti-roll bars in it that we'll come to in a moment, but that does allow the suspension to sort of breathe when you're not putting any cornering forces in. Basically, they're free to, each wheel is free to move, and that does help ride quality. If I put it up to Sports Plus, yeah, it very definitely hangs on to the gears. Yeah, I'm in fourth at 60. 3,000 RPM, 3.2, that would get quite wearing to do that, so I'm going to put it back to sport, and it knocks it back a gear as well into fifth. Try this bump. Yeah, that you can tell the spring rates are that much higher. Right, I'm going to go to manual control now. I expect it to be pretty special around here. Just feel that G build up as you go swing round there. It disguises its bulk, as you would imagine. There's no denying it's there, but it's so quick and so on top of it, and it's got the right tyres as well, which really help. They've had a real play with the chassis on this. Everything, you go through it and everything's improved. It's 17 mil lower, the bushing is that much stiffer, the rear steer is more active, the less roll. The list goes on of the tinkering on this engine to make it do what it does. and it does drive very differently from what I remember a Cayenne doing it. The previous Cayenne, it impressed because it was on the right tyres. It's the key difference between a Range Rover Sport, say, and a Cayenne. Cayenne developed, or Porsche developed, proper tyres for this car, and it makes a massive difference. And this being the ultimate Cayenne, it's very definitely trick tyres on it. They are performance tyres, they're not all season tyres at all. I want to go through some of the likes and dislikes of this car, and I suppose, yeah, number one, it's a weird value, this car, because it's at £160,000 as you see it here. It feels it is expensive, and it doesn't quite have that feel inside. It is heavy. I mean, they try to make it a sports car, but you've got this front rear distribution, and it really doesn't help it. This is my normal test round here. I'll come round here. I'll try second round here. Just that rear. It's quite a lot of oversteer there. I mean, that is the aggressive steering they've put on it. That's because it's got this rear steer and that's set up. But you're always fighting that front rear distribution, that 57 on the front. And they've got round it by how they've calibrated the rear steer on it. But just on the dislikes, another one, MPG is pretty horrific, as you would imagine. I've seen 12, as low as 12 MPG, it creeps up to 18 MPG. But if you do use it on the motorway, you do cruise up, well, I have seen low 20s, so I suppose that's acceptable. But be aware, if you use the performance, it comes crashing down into the teens. On the likes though, it's very easy to live with. That automatic gearbox just gives it an easy nature to go with. Good interior, all the controls work well. You know, I'm feeling the heated seats, the Apple Play connects immediately, and all the buttons all make sense. So it's very easy to live with. And then the value of it, weirdly, as I say, it was £160,000. My God, that's expensive. And yet it's about, well, 30,000 list price cheaper than the Lamborghini Urus, for example. And if I look at them in the classifiers, these things are selling for about 40,000 over list. It's just remarkable the market we're in at the moment. Another like with it is the level of performance on offer. It is amusing, to say the least. It is of a scale that does not compute. The Lamborghini Urus is sort of top dog, if you like. I haven't tried the Aston Martin DBS 707. I'm told that's really good. But against the Urus, this is even madder. And I never thought we'd have a car that mad. And with Porsche, as obviously they almost over-deliver. The level, it's the way I can feel it fight through the steering. That's how I know there's serious grunt on offer with this car. And yet it's wrapped up. If I put it all, knock it back, and it's dead easy to live with. That is impressive. So in conclusion on this car, what do I think about it? Well, I am impressed by it, but I can't really say I desire it somehow. And I think what's sort of lacking with it compared to what you expect from Porsche is this precision you get from their cars. There is something glorious about the feel of the controls and the steering and the way you can play with the rear bias weight on their cars that just enhances the drive experience. This one, I'm just amazed what it can do, but I'm not interacting with it. I'm with it, but I'm not really playing around with it. And I cannot get over, it's 2.2 tons and it controls it very well, but it does change the way the car goes down the road. Physics just come to play with it. And I think we've hit a zenith with this car. Really impressive. You think they've been out 20 years with the Cayenne and they've got to this stage. And it's right on cue. It's just popped up that I need to refuel. What have I averaged today? Yeah, another 12 mpg. If If I go through the menu, let's have a look. Since last refueling, it has done 17 mpg, so yeah, that's about par for the course. So there you go, that's my conclusion on the Cayenne Turbo GT. Deeply impressive car, but not one for me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, well, keep watching, keep subscribing. More videos coming on very soon.